Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel for the WCW Saturday Night Review Series. This is February 17th, 1990. I'm going to finish off 1990 today, at least that's the goal, and go into 1989. Obviously, the WCW Saturday Night franchise is a pretty big thing, and kind of get a pretty good run there. Jack Victory and Mike Rotundo up here, and I'm sorry, Doug Furnace up here. And I mean, Jack Victory doing the Secret Service deal there. I don't know that that was the best use of him. Um, Basically, very basic match. Victory trying to get an advantage, doesn't necessarily get everything he wants on it. Deep arm drags and hip tosses Furnace. Not exactly a guy that's getting a lot of play, but he manages to get enough. Then we see Furnace gets the drop kick and the top rope splash and gets a victory there. Then we see Flying Brian Pillman, being confronted by Ric Flair and Woman. Woman, of course, joining Flair in the this part of the early part of WCW. Basically, Flair saying that he made sure that ultimately everything comes together. The Corpus Christi Clash of the Champions, I believe, Clash 10, where Sting is all but jumped out of the Horseman and laid out. And also the idea that Sting's knee is, well, I believe it's the knee, the patella tendon real life injury coming into alignment here later in times. And then we see an enhancement match for Cactus Jack Manson. Cactus Jack getting a running clothesline on the enhancement talent. Pretty aggressive with his approach to getting talent under control. Jack also hits the top rope, or not top rope, but the and to be fair, this is a tag team match with Kevin Sullivan as his tag team partner, but Jack does hit the dive to the outside of the ring. I focus on Jack because he does the majority of the work in the contest, as he should here. Big back body drop, among other things, and Cactus, of course, hits a good run of offensive maneuvers. Sullivan making sure that Jack is at his best, laying the enhancement talent out on the floor. And then there we go into the next in series, the Steiner brothers out here, and they are your World Tag Team Champions. Steiner's in an enhancement match, getting ready for matches with Doom at the time. Certainly, I guess you'd say a pretty good run there. The Steiners in for about a year. Fireman's carries and other basic maneuvers by Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner, of course, the inventor of the Frankensteiner Huracan Rana, well, at least here in the States, and he nails them with it, getting a quick victory, a couple of belly-to-belly suplexes and other suplex versions leading to things there. Then we see an enhancement match with Doom. Doom taking on various other enhancement talents at the time. The masks coming off of Doom late in 1989, early in 1990, of course. Doom, Ron Simmons, and Butch Reed, basically doing a brawl around, also leading them up to matches with none other than the, the run of various individuals like the Road Warriors. Then we go to another tag team match here. The Freebirds, Jimmy Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes at this point, not the original Freebirds of Roberts, Gordy, and Hayes, which, by the way, if you haven't already checked out our entire 320 some odd deep run here of world class, worth checking out. Got over close to 200 for Mid-South. Basically, we want to be an audio library for various wrestling organizations of back when wrestling was good. Anyway, Uh, this particular match is good back and forth, worth taking a look at. Eddie Gilbert and Tommy Rich. Just weird that they are a pretty consistent team at the time in 1990, having been, at war with each other 4 or 5 years earlier, maybe a little more than that, but at war with each other in the early 80s in Memphis and now teaming here. Tommy Rich manages to get a good number of things under his control. Big backdrop, among other things. Rich certainly not in a bad position by any stretch of the imagination. Also, uh, Eddie Gilbert kind of continuing to get under the skin of his opponents. The Freebirds, though, do get the victory, and they're talking about concert touring. They're talking about being at their best, and really they could care less about who's in front of them. They are committed to being what they consider to be the best team out there. Then there is a squash match for Norman the Lunatic. A really short match, probably just a couple of minutes, but Norman hits a sunset flip, sit out, move on the enhancement talent, as it were, and then we'd see a continuation of things going somewhat forward, I guess is what we would say, with the Horsemen and the Steiners and all of that coming forward here. Lex Luger, confronting from a previous interview, confronts the idea of facing Ric Flair and eventually knocks out the Horsemen, taking them out, and the eventual confrontation between the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, and the idea of Doom in a street fight, also talked about, hyped for the upcoming pay-per-view. I believe that was led into with Starrcade 89. We do see a good match here up next. The Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express. Obviously, one of the bigger feuds in the history of pro wrestling for tag teams, at least. Cornette on the outside, and Ricky Morton takes the majority of punishment. Bobby Eaton and Morton are in for the first several minutes of the match. Jim Cornette, of course, managing the Midnight Express on the outside. Phenomenal run. And the Midnights are in a good position here. Their wars with each other, super valuable rocket launcher from the top rope by Bobby Eaton. Eaton actually hits the rocket launcher on Ricky Morton, but a near fall. Good back and forth match, and I'm sorry, but the Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express better than any tag team series today, maybe short of FTR, with a team that actually knows how to work. Anyhow, regardless, Jim Cornette gets laid out in the falderall of this. However, the Rock and Roll Express do fall to the Midnight Express. The use of the tennis racket, and Ricky gets blasted. And ultimately, the Midnights pick up a victory under scrupulous terms anyway. Then we go to the wonder that is the Dynamic Dudes concept here. Shane Douglas, I believe, in a singles match here. Actually, World Television Champion Arn Anderson out there. Anderson, at the time, the World Television Champion, only still out there with Arn, and kind of going around. Arn Anderson is phenomenal at the time. Anderson takes the majority of the match, sending his opponent around and kind of beating him down a good bit here. And Ole Anderson even gets a few cheap shots on the outside. Arn Anderson, probably the most decorated television champion in the area. The Hammerlock Slam, among other maneuvers by Arn Anderson. Anderson certainly committed to the process of trying to get things together. Anderson also takes a few cheap shots at the talent after the match, and the Steiner brothers run them out of town. Highlights of Ric Flair and Lex Luger from a I'm sorry, not highlights of Luger and Flair, but Flair and Pillman is a match up next here Luger and Flair's on my mind because that's where they're going for the pay-per-view. But Brian Pillman and Ric Flair, Flair's request in working with Pillman is honored here on February 17th. Good match, as it were, probably the best of Brian's career to that point. Drop kicks under the chin of Flair, and Pillman has Flair backing up for quite a bit. Flair with a bunch of chops. Flair lighten Pillman up, but Pillman turns him around and gives it back to him. So basically, a very back and forth match. Flair bumping all over the place for Pillman. Hits the rolling knee drop woman on the outside, looking on with a good bit of makeup, to say the very least. There, short cutoff on Pillman. Pillman does roll Flair up several times in that, where they look like they may even change the championship to Pillman. Doesn't happen, obviously, but ultimately we kind of see Flair going back to work on the leg of his adversary, and once again working over the leg for a good number of minutes. Flair trying to get the figure four on, and ultimately at the end, Pillman goes to the top rope and manages to hit the cross body. Flair, however, rolling through and managing to hook the tights and the leg and getting a victory at the very last minute. Flair still wants more of Pillman somewhere down the road. I don't know that ever happened. Maybe it did on house shows, but I don't think they ever met again on television. But we'll be back with more right after this.